So today we're working on a design using this foil pan, and these are great for cooking stuffing. They're kind of like a throwaway pan, and I like them to do embossed metal art because they're thick. They're thicker than just aluminum foil off of a roll. Also, you can use like a soda can if you cut it apart and just use like the piece of metal, but they're thicker and they're a little more sharp and harder to work with. I like this foil because it's kind of a in between perfect thickness just to do embossing at home with like standard tools. And honestly, it won't hurt your hand as much because it's a softer metal. The only thing is that you want to be careful when you are embossing it because if you press extremely hard, you can tear a hole in it. So just be aware of that when you're roughly going across. If you do so happen to poke a hole in it, don't panic. You can use hot glue from your hot glue gun to just kind of seal over that hole because you're going to paint it anyway and texturize it and try to make the paint kind of dimensional to make the design pop. So once you get your foil pan, you're going to cut the corners and you're going to smooth out all those ridges and tape some paper to it to kind of find the size of the pan there. And use that piece of paper to sketch out your design. And here you can see this one is a pumpkin, and I'm just hand drawing it. And I'm trying to hand draw it with the majority of the page covering because I want to use most of the pan on this art piece. And tape it to your foil and trim away like the excess so you're not having those pieces hanging off. Be very careful. It is a sharp foil. And if you want to, you can wear gloves for safety. So you want to take your embossing tools and you want to follow the outline of your design. Once you get it transferred onto the piece of foil, you can remove your paper. If you're doing something more intricate, you may want to keep it so you can put it on and refer back and forth to it or anything like that. But this is kind of a basic shape of an outline that I drew. And I'm also using here a piece of felt, like two pieces of felt layered together for cushion. And you can use like a towel or fabric or something like that. Because when you're doing the embossing, if you use it just straight on a hard surface like a table, you don't get the tool to like press in as well. It won't give you like the curvature or whatever. So once you get it kind of smoothed out, you're basically pushing the metal out into the design. You just go back and forth, flipping it over. Now at this point, you have like these cavities, and it would be great if I had some silicone on hand. You could totally do that and use like a caulking gun with like silicone that you would put like around your bathtub or whatever and fill the cavities with that. You could fill it with hot glue. However, though, it would take a lot of hot glue, and I don't have like a high temperature enough gun to squeeze out that much glue that fast. It would take like way too long and use a lot of glue. So I decided to just glue in some pieces of cardboard to kind of fill the cavities, and I just rough cut them. And that also depends on how big of a piece of artwork. If you're doing something small, like an ornament size, you could just totally fill it in with the glue. So because it is such a large piece, I don't want it to look like foil, and it is going to kind of show like grooves in it. So I decided the best option here would be to texturize the pumpkin. And I went ahead and used the embossing tool to kind of hammer it around and put little dots and divots and basically rough it up. Also, you could see I trimmed around the edge and folded the metal over a piece of cardboard that I glued for the backing. And then take like a small hammer. I love having this small hammer. It's always been one of my favorite craft tools. I use it for literally everything. And I use that as well to bang up and texturize the front side of the pumpkin as well as the outer edge. Because when you fold those pieces over, you might have like little points that are kind of sticking out that might feel a little sharp to the touch. And you don't want it to scratch you or anyone else. If you're handling it 2 years down the road, you threw it in your craft bin of fall decor and you get it out, you want it to be smooth when you grab it with your hand. So just take your hammer, bang it around, texturize it, and smooth out the edges. After that, you're ready to paint it. I used a basic matte finish paint by Rust-Oleum to do a coat of white. I wanted this to be like a neutral pumpkin because I've been really back into neutral decor. And then I'm taking acrylic craft paint to make it kind of dimensional in the grooves, where I dip half of the brush in white and half of the brush in this Barcelona beige folk art paint and add that into the grooves. You could see that there. And then taking a piece of thick cardstock, like a cereal box or something like that, you want to just draw some random looking leaves and cut them out. And I like to make it really thick and glue it together so there's not the underside's not necessarily showing. You don't have to double up the thickness on that. You could totally leave it just one thickness. But make 2 of them for your leaves. Or if you want, you could make 3 or 4 or none. You could put a bow. You could do whatever you wanted to do. I'm also taking a piece of wire here. This is like a copper jewelry making wire. I always have like random wire scraps for things. And just give it some nice kind of a curly look by wrapping it around a pen or a pencil, one of those embossing tools. And I added some green paint to the stem here and then use that same paint. It's like, I think it's called a English ivy green in acrylic craft paint, and added a little bit to the wire and stuff like that. I like this color for fall and I've used it on a lot of projects. And I like to take the wire and bend it into like a little flat shape so it's not like real sharp on the edge. But I'm just hot gluing it to the back of these leaves here and then hot gluing that to the metal pumpkin. Now, the first time I glued it, it kind of pulled up some of the paint. I just added more glue and glued it right back down there. I really do like this hot glue. I talk about it all the time. It's by Surebonder. And if you are a crafter and you've been crafting for many years and you've not tried this hot glue, you should, because it's superior. So anyways, that's basically it. The only other thing I'm going to do besides adding a hanger to it, which I just use like an awl to poke holes in it before I painted it, because if you do it after you paint it, it might mess up that little bit of area or whatever. So add a wire for hanging, and then optional is adding a top coat. And I'm just using this Mod Podge dishwasher one. I really like the dishwasher one because it doesn't have that tackiness that the original has. So I use it interchangeably as a top coat on some projects, and I have it on hand. It's also water-based and easy to work with indoors. And that's basically it. There you have a cute piece. Thank you.